Hello, everyone. David from Mortgage Choice. It's Tuesday, the 2nd of May, and the Reserve Bank has just announced that the cash rate will increase by 0.25%. Certainly not what we expected. I think the majority of experts had predicted that rates would be on hold this month, but the Reserve Bank was just a little concerned about inflation not coming down as fast as they had hoped. Certainly, inflation has peaked, but it isn't coming down as fast as they want it to. So they're increasing rates yet again to hopefully curtail spending and try and put a bit more pressure on inflation coming down. I think the Reserve Bank is also a bit concerned about the U.S. interest rates because the U.S. increased their interest rates last month. And if there's a huge discrepancy between the cash rate in America and the cash rate here in Australia, then that puts pressure on the Aussie currency. And over the last few weeks, we saw the Australian dollar dropping a fair bit in relation to the US dollar. And that's because of that discrepancy between the rates for the two countries. So I think the Reserve Bank is just trying to basically stay in line with where America's at and not get too far out of where they're at with their cash rate so that we don't affect our currency exchange. If we do have a lower dollar, then that affects us trying to buy goods and bring them into our country. And because we're basically a small island in the middle of the ocean, we've got to pay a fair bit to have goods brought over to us. And if we've got a lower dollar, then that basically exacerbates the inflation issue. So here we are yet again. We're quite used to this. We've had 10 rate rises in the last 12 months. So what's another one to add to the mix? In all seriousness, it does mean that anyone with a variable rate on their home loan, we're going to see higher repayments because of it. So just be prepared that in the next couple of weeks, you'll likely see your bank increasing rates. And that means that your repayment in the next 3 to 4 weeks will be adjusted based on that new rate. The only thing that we can do, as we've mentioned over the last 12 months, the only thing that we can do to try and combat these higher rates is to shop around and make sure that you're getting the absolute best rate possible. And the easiest thing to do is to call your existing bank and try and get them to lower your rate as much as they're willing to do. Failing that, if they're not willing to be competitive, then we've got 40 banks that we can look at to try and find a more competitive rate. One thing that we have noticed over the last 3 to 4 weeks is that all of the big banks have pulled back on their pricing. They were being quite aggressive in trying to win business over the last year. But Commonwealth Bank, ANZ, NAB, and Westpac, and you can include Bank of Melbourne as part of that mix, that all 4 of the major lenders have pulled back on their pricing and are no longer offering the variable rate discounts that they once were. So basically, it's putting them out of line with the smaller banks by about 0.3 or 0.4%. So now there's a bigger focus on these smaller lenders like Macquarie and ING, who are happy to offer more competitive interest rates, probably because they don't have the bigger infrastructure to worry about that these banks do. So if clients are looking to potentially refinance, then we'd be looking at these second tier lenders to try and find the best rates possible. I want to also talk about the property market. I think there was a lot of doom and gloom in the property market about values dropping significantly. I think they were predicting up to 25% drop in property values. And just this last month, PropTrack and a couple of the other property guides advised that we actually saw an increase in property values for the first time in the last 6 months. So as I was expecting over the last 12 months, because of the increase in population that we've got over the last year and that we're predicted to have in the coming years, because we're bringing in 350,000 to 400,000 people a year into the country, they have to have a place to live. And so the more demand you put on the property market that already has low volume and undersupply of housing, then you're going to increase the demand of that product and increase the cost of that product. So it's likely that we'll continue to see property values increase, which is great for those of you that own a property, but it's becoming harder and harder for those that don't own property to try and get into the market, because now you're going to have to fight against 2 things. One is an increase in interest rates, which means your borrowing capacity is coming down, but also the fact that the property that you're trying to buy is now more expensive because property values will likely start to increase again. Time will tell. We could well see property prices plateau and even drop in the future, but my expectation is that they'll continue to rise as we bring in more and more people into the country. If you've got questions, if you've got concerns, please let us know. We're always happy to have a chat and do reviews for you. And we will contact all of our clients that have mortgages with us at least once a year to do a review on your behalf. So if we haven't spoken with you in a couple of months and you want to push that review up forward, more than happy to have a chat, send us an email or book in a meeting, and we'll run through your options. On a personal note, as most of you are aware, I'm from America. And I came out to Australia in 2004 for what was meant to be a 6 to 12-month holiday. The plan was to travel around, visit a few cities, play some Australian football, and then I was going to go back to America and, as my parents said, start getting serious about life. Luckily, things didn't work out that way. In the first week that I arrived here in Australia, I met the most amazing young lady that I'd ever met, seen, spoken to ever. Her name was Tracy. She's from Melbourne. And I then spent the next 12 months trying desperately to convince her that we were perfect for each other. And eventually I did it. And shortly after that, we got married. And we've now spent the last 18 years making Australia home. And I'm so happy and so thankful that we did that. I absolutely love this country. I love the culture. I love the people. I love the sport. I love the food. Everything about it, I love. So much so that I decided to raise a family here. We've got 3 beautiful children, and I'm so happy that they get to grow up in this great country. And we've also created a fantastic business that we've had the absolute pleasure of running for the last 15 years. So Australia has been very, very good to us. And it's always been in the back of my mind that I eventually want to become an Australian citizen. It was always very important for me, especially having little ones, so that they could see that, yes, Dad is now officially an Australian citizen. And I'm happy to report that as of last week, I have become an Australian citizen. So Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Thank you very much for your time, as always. And we'll be back to you next month. Thank you.